Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Changing the Questions, part 3 of our ongoing discussion of kayfabe and realism in professional wrestling. I, once again, am Paul Laporte. Joining me again, my guest hosts, Johnny Patches and Dominic Schmidt.
Hola!
But this is part 4. We just changed the question in part 3 to make this part 3 instead of part 4. That'll be on the...
Check the after hours. Post the after hours.
Yes, sure. I don't know. There was so much stuff done to that. I don't think you can see the light of day. All right. So, but rather than discuss the outtakes, let's go back to the question at hand. And I guess this isn't really. I guess we are kind of just. I guess the C is for continuing the questions in this episode, and that is whether or not pro wrestling should be less realistic. As we kind of mentioned in the last episode, it's kind of more sport-based. Should wrestling try and kind of break out of that box? Would it be easier to accept if it wasn't pretending to be real?
Okay, so I said this when we were off the air, that I was going to mention this. So, larger-than-life characters. Who is the most unbelievable character that isn't The Undertaker that WWE has right now? Or what's the most unbelievable character in the past 5 years? I'm changing the question.
That is new within the past 5 years? Yes. That's a good question. Bray Wyatt?
Sure. Okay, yeah.
Hillbilly Swamp Cult leader?
Even still...
Who can harness the powers of Kane and The Undertaker?
That's the part
but
that
still
annoyed
lose
me.
all the time?
Yes, but still lose. I have your powers, but...
I'm gonna lose to you regular guys, apparently.
I mean, their power was putting people over.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I guess, out of kayfabe wise, it works. Yeah, there's, no unbelievable characters that, come up, or at least not as often. I remember, let's forget WWE CW.
Well, are we talking about just the last 5 years?
No, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to the Boogeyman.
Okay. Well, God damn you.
Because
there's a hive mind, and that's where I was going to go.
So I'm going to go back to the Boogeyman. The Boogeyman was amazing. I don't remember what year it was, but I was young, and it was great. And just the whole thing, I don't know, nothing made sense about it. Bashing the clock over your head, just...
Eating worms.
Shaking Jimmy around all the time. Eating worms, spitting them, biting off... JBL's ladies Jillian Hall's giant face growth, which was also unbelievable. It was just like a Twinkie glued to her face.
Maybe that was the most unbelievable character, Jillian Hall's face growth.
Or Orlando Jordan in the caution tape.
Yes, that was TNA.
Oh, was it?
That was TNA.
Well.
Because they found out that Orlando Jordan was bisexual and they lost their goddamn minds.
Caution.
And it was like, oh, he's bisexual, we have to give him this character gimmick.
So Boogeyman sticks out in my head.
Abyss,
sure. But Abyss was just... I always thought the character was just a mentally handicapped person.
That's definitely the way they played it towards the later end.
Yeah.
But in the early days when that feud with Sabu in 2006, he was really kind of meant to be this weird mash of Kane and Mankind.
But that's the thing. But Mankind's interview with JR proves that he's just a mentally disturbed person.
Right.
So, but then we go back to I think it was before the Boogeyman. We're gonna go back to Mordecai. Do you remember Mordecai with the white hair before he became Vampire Boy for WW Never Happened?
Yes.
That character was unrealistic and it just never clicked, and it seemed like he was the natural progression of an opponent for the Undertaker.
Right.
It was SmackDown.
A lot of those larger than life characters, Undertaker was really the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Even Gangrel, mentioning him twice in 2 podcasts.
More times than he's been mentioned. A third time and he shows up. But Gangrel was fine.
You blew it.
And
and there's a circle of flames starting up in my living room. So here he comes.
He was fine, and then they added Edge and Christian and that was fine. And the whole once the Ministry got together, I think it all meshed really well. And I don't know if it was planned, but it really worked out really nicely that there was oh, there's some supernatural stuff happening, and it all just sort of came together. And it's one of those things that works so well that I doubt that they planned it.
Right. But even in lieu of that, you made Undertaker the central figure of that.
Yeah.
Which I believe if, say, you had made Kane the central figure, even as long as Kane's been around, it's going to flop.
Well, especially then, because he was voice box Kane.
Right.
But who's the biggest larger than life character who wasn't a spooky character, who wasn't a lurch in the shadows guy? Undertaker, Mordecai, Boogeyman, Bray Wyatt,
Gregory Helms.
Helms.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sure. And Gregory Helms went over the Big Show too a bunch of times.
He's
right?
a hurricane, yeah.
I mean, yeah. And he had the chokeslam. But he was fun. He was kind of what wrestling was at the time, at least for me as like a kid, and it was just like, oh, this is comic books on TV with real people.
Right. But he never really broke out past that mid card. He never really hit that upper mid card. And a lot of that has to do with his association with the Hardys and, nepotism in the business. You bring your friends along, which is fine. I'm okay with that because Greg Helms was a talented worker.
So, all right, change the question again. I'm hijacking this. This is why we don't invite him anywhere. Who is the latest unbelievable character, non-spooky main eventer?
Well, we're sticking to just WWE?
Yes,
Presumably.
because if we're gonna break the everybody else has broken the mold, so we're kind of focused around.
But even if you focus on TNA, from what I've gathered, there's nobody that stands out as being.
Well, I was going to go with Lucha Underground.
Right,
everybody is.
But they're all characters.
Them, Shikara, they're all characters. Even Ring of Honor is more.
Well, Ring of Honor is all super serious,
right?
And that's kind of the next point I was going to make is that maybe it does work its best when it's a mix of serious, which almost seems counterintuitive, but it almost like the guys in WWE who are supernatural kind of stand out more, even though they make no sense. You take a look at over in Japan, you have New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is very serious and very taken as a very legitimate sport still to this day. But then you also have DDT, which is almost kind of considered the sister promotion in New Japan, which does matches with inflatable sex dolls and children, and it doesn't matter.
Like sex doll was a world champion.
Yeah, Yoshihiko was a hardcore champ, that belt was also held by a ladder at one point,
twice.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. It's like it's almost better if you had just all of one or all of the other. Like, I don't think either would be as good. Like, I don't think that there should ever be a point where the sport, quote unquote, style of it just dies off and everything is Lucha Underground. If everything was Lucha Underground, we wouldn't love Lucha Underground.
It's the yin and yang of the business. You have to have your serious moments, but you also have to have some comedy built in there.
It's the Jimmy Wang Yang of the business.
The Jimmy Wang Yang of the business, exactly. And WWE has done that really well, and I think.
Well, they've done it well sometimes, and they've also done it really, really poorly.
He's a freaking billionaire. No matter
that was great. He said that last night. It was fantastic. I thought it was great.
No matter what we think or how much better we believe we can do it, we're sitting in your computer room with a Christmas tree, not in a multi-million-dollar studio with a podcast.
Right, but he also had a father who ran a promotion,
right.
And if any of our dads ran a promotion,
he ran a territory.
Yeah, right. He ran a territory. Right. So I mean, it isn't a thing of he just got this from nothing.
Right.
He was kind of handed it, and that's usually the way that it is. Anybody who's successful generally kind of has to be handed that to kind of build it.
Right, but then they also have to keep it going.
I mean, I would say
he's made it bigger.
I would say that the good example of a person who got by on nothing but their own creativity and merits is Paul Heyman, because here's this dopey photographer who just started taking pictures when he was 14 years old.
Hey kid, here's $10 for your
exactly.
Shot
he went from
Senior.
some 14-year-old taking pictures at Madison Square Garden to being the runner of the far and away considered the third best company in the world, and the guy who a lot of people respect more than the person who's still around.
Yes. But it's easy to respect the ones who are gone. He hasn't had the chance to screw everything up.
Well, he screwed everything up financially.
Yes.
So, he buried himself because he didn't know how to handle finances. And the question is not that whether or not Vince McMahon is smart and whether or not Vince McMahon has made a lot of money. It's a question of how much money.
Both of those are yes.
Yes. It's a question of how much money he left on the table or how much more money he could have brought in. Those are the big questions. But that's kind of getting away from what the point of this.
So, back to unbelievable characters.
Yes.
And a mix of both. I think a mix of both is right where we're at, because if everybody's a real life person character, we're just a knockoff MMA. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Everybody's just, you might as well just have them wrap their hands in their feet.
Honestly, that's kind of just one of the reasons that I can't, as much as I respect it as a promotion, as much as I liked in the past, like, I can't get into current Ring of Honor for kind of that same reason. Because it's just so goddamn serious, like, there's nothing that's like, Dalton Castle's there, and that's the thing, is like, he's the breath of fresh air in that, but it's just...
Well, there's Dalton Castle, there's...
You watch it more than I do, so you would know about it.
Yeah, there's Mark Briscoe with his redneck kung fu and his palm strikes.
Yeah, but they're just the Diaz boys of wrestling.
You got Cheeseburger, it's serious, it's not as lighthearted, but it does have it mixed in, and it takes itself serious, but not to the point of being obnoxious. I watch it and I know what I'm getting every week. I'm getting a great match. I'm getting another great match. I'm getting a fantastic main event. They're consistently spot on, hit for me anyhow. I've never watched a Ring of Honor show. I've never bought a Ring of Honor DVD and been like, man, that disappointed me. Even DVDs that I've picked up where I don't know all the names on there, and some are some Midwest indie guys that you're never going to see again. They go in there and they put on their best match. Something about that promotion brings out the best in people. And to me, it throws me off that it hasn't developed more. It hasn't gotten a bigger following, or hasn't even got a major deal at this point, because it's still extremely limited on where you can view it, besides being online.
But that's, like I said, and that's the interesting thing, is like Ring of Honor has been going for almost going on 15 years at this point, and they haven't really been able to get that big traction. But like I said, I'm almost of the mindset that I think maybe what I'm looking for in a wrestling show is changing a little bit, because like I see all those good matches and it's like, oh, it's a good match, but then I just start to compare it to every other great match I've ever seen, and I have like everything just kind of blends together after a while. But then like I watch something like I got the first couple nights of the King of the Trios tournament from Chikara, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing, just because, like, the first match is Mr. Azerbaijan and the proletariat boar of Moldova taking on these like, weird guys from England. Like, and there's just, like, it's like, these aren't the best matches I've ever seen, although some of them are really good, and there's some people in that promotion who can do just stuff that I've never seen before in my life. But the things that are still good matches also have the thing of having these really goofy characters and this really silly story going to it, or some sort of extra element that I think adds a little bit more spice to it. And I think that, like we said, there needs to be that balance. Like, I need to have my palate cleansed every once in a while, because there's only so much I can watch of guys forearming each other in the face for 20 minutes. Then, like, that's still a good match, but then it's just kind of like every other match I've seen of guys forearming each other.
Michael Elgin.
Yeah, exactly.
So Big Mike. So if and to go back with that, so like Chikara and something like that. So now you have like an all character promotion. So you got your Saturday morning cartoons. You got your, I mean, essentially it's goddamn Power Rangers.
That was my plan, remember?
Yeah.
No, Chikara is definitely meant as and that's kind of another one of the interesting things too about Chikara, is that they really, like, they say at the beginning, like, this is a family friendly promotion, and when you have like the guys like the Young Bucks show up at Chikara, they're not doing crotch chops. Like, they're very clearly defined as what they do, and I think that's one of the things that makes them good, is like, this is what we are, here's what we have. And I think that it's better when promotions do that. And I don't think that that all of one style should ever go away. I think you need to have the fight sport style. I think you need to have the lucha style, and have some stuff in between, which is where WWE kind of falls. They kind of fall midway on that spectrum. I think that I would like to see the fantastic side of that be more prominent. And I'd love to see like Lucha Underground really take off to that next level and be like, I can watch WWE and then I can watch the Lucha Underground and then I can watch Ring of Honor, and that's kind of like my balance.
I wish everything was more obtainable. I wish that I could just be like, this channel is WWE and tomorrow this channel is, I mean, I don't have cable, so I'm flipping channels.
You have that. It's called the internet.
Yeah. So, but like, oh, and this channel is this. Yeah, but I don't want to like have to like download it like torrents. Like, I'm not complaining. It's the easiest.
Well, the thing is that a lot of promotions have their own streaming service.
I know ROH does, right? And
ROH does, Chikara does, New Japan does. Like, even like the smaller ones, like IPW out of like Scotland. A lot of them are now, and there are certain wrestling services that offer like multiple ones where you can even just like pay for individual matches and things like that.
That makes sense.
And I've been doing that more. Or like, when I was younger, I would just torrent these things. Like, I'm trying to support these smaller promotions, these people who are doing interesting ideas with my money now. And you say that it's you wish they were more accessible, and I do too. Like, I wish I could just turn on a television station and see Chikara. I mean, you can see it for Lucha Underground, but half the cable carriers don't carry it, and you have to have cable for it and everything. Yeah. But still, compared to what it was 20 years ago, here's WCW, here's WWF, done. That's it. That's all you have.
So, in the middle ground of fantastic characters, before I get to what I want to say is the great, a good solid middle ground here, which is NXT. I want to go back to the middle ground of Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Okay.
So Smoky Mountain Wrestling, you have your real characters. You got your Tracy Smothers, and then
the Heavenly Bodies.
The Heavenly Bodies. You got your Jim Cornette, and you got Bullet Bob, and all that. And but then you also had like the Mummy, and then there was the Ninja, and then there was the version of the Ninja that was good.
Wasn't Jason the Destroyer in there too? There was just Jason from Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it was
Boo Radley.
Yeah,
it was just, and that's kind of a situation where I think the fantastic characters sort of fall flat.
Was it Enter the Ninja 3, The Domination?
No. No. Please, no.
That's what we need. We need like a canon group of professional wrestling.
We do.
So, but those are like situations where like the characters fall flat. So you can't just like interject nonsense gimmicks into real. I mean, I wouldn't really call the non-gimmick wrestling of Smoky Mountain combat sports, but you got to do it right. So then to go to NXT, and you have like literally the one person who personifies like combat sports, and your fantastic character is Finn Balor.
Yeah.
So weekly he comes out as himself. Pay-per-view wise, he comes out as the Demon. Whether you like the Demon or not, I don't like the emphasis that they put on it, like corporate Kane.
Yeah.
Like, that's obnoxious.
I'm only gonna really be behind it when the Demon is the one that injured Tommy.
Yeah. Although, you said that was the one example of the fantastic in the combat sport, but when you were saying that intro, I thought Asuka. Because honestly, she's just like a fighter, but she's almost getting to the point where she has like supernatural status over everybody else. To the point where, like, I've even said this, I don't know if I've said this in prior episodes, but in conversations with friends, I don't want to see Asuka be face or heel. She should just be a tornado. Like, she should just be like Brock Lesnar. She's a force of nature. She's a killing machine. That's it. She has her goal, and everybody else has to... She's Galactus. Like, everybody else just has to figure out how to deal with her.
Which is great. The problem is that eventually leads to the dark side.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to send us any feedback, be sure to do that. You can send us an email at changingthequestions@gmail.com, or you can check us out on Twitter at changingtheqs. That's at changingtheqs. You can also look us up on Facebook, on YouTube. If you're listening to this on iTunes, be sure to give us a nice 5-star review, say a few nice words. Hope you all have a happy new year, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Keep it tight.
Deuces.
It's trademarked.